Hi everyone, this is Adrian.
And I'm Carrie.
And for this episode, we are gonna do Terre D'Hermes by Hermes. So this fragrance is one of our favorites. It's one of our go-to fragrances when we're thinking of like going to some place and choosing between what fragrance to wear, and we're always thinking about this particular fragrance. So tell
Right.
us more about it.
So Terre D'Hermes was released in 2006 as an eau de toilette concentration. And it's by one of my favorite perfumers, Jean Claude Ellena, who also released a very similar one to this that we did recently, Bigarade Concentré.
Yeah. I had a different impression with that particular fragrance, but with this one, it's easily one of my favorite fragrances.
Mine too. This
Yeah.
is one that I like to call like a dumb reach. It's like you don't even have to think about it. It's always good.
Yeah. So why is it good?
So this one, it's debatable, how much you believe this, but it has something to do with how it's constructed. They call this a vertical scent, which means that I think it's that you smell all of the different elements of it sort of at the same time, even though there's somewhat of a fading away of the top notes as it dries down. And so, what they say conceptually that this does is you get a really rich sort of a structure to this that the more bass notes and middle notes support the top notes. Now, let's go into what the notes are.
Okay.
But I'm going to do it a little different this time because of how they say that this is constructed. It may make more sense in this. The base is vetiver, cedar, patchouli, and benzoin. Benzoin is kind of a sweet, sort of a smelling substance that has a little bit of a nose buzzy feel to it. Then the mid is pepper and flint. And then a sort of a flowering thing called pelargonium.
Okay.
So the flint is an interesting note because flint's kind of a rock, and what does it smell like? But I think they're talking about when you strike flint against another flint or something, there's a sort of a, like a,
Gunpowder.
maybe or earthy, like sort of a smell to it. Then the top notes are orange and grapefruit. So once again, from the top down now, orange, grapefruit, mid is pepper, pelargonium, flint,
Okay.
and the base vetiver, cedar, patchouli, and benzoin. So all of those notes infuse together to give a sort of an earthy, mineral sort of a support to the top notes that are fruity. And a lot of people refer to this as sort of a dirty orange. I like to think of it more of an earthy orange.
Well, for me, I try not to smell it when I just first spray it. Compared to other fragrances, which like you want to smell the initial spray. This one I avoid because it smells like turpentine.
Interesting.
That kind of like strength.
That's kind of the benzoin coming through, I think, along with the citrus notes.
Yeah, it has a strong kick.
Yeah.
So I avoid it because it smells like turpentine. But after 30 seconds, it smells really good. It's is pleasant to me and in a rich way. The smell of wood and earth.
Right.
It's that combination that you described in the notes. So not so much the orange because that kind of fades away kind of fast, but the earth and the woody notes like stay.
Yeah.
So
I have noticed that the smell evolves differently on skin versus on clothing. I usually put a few sprays behind my ears, a few around my neck, a couple on my arms. if I'm going to do skin, but the other day I was wearing a sweater, and so I only put a few sprays behind my ears and then some sprays on my sweater. And I noticed hours and hours later that I still smelled nearly the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So I think maybe when it's on skin and it's warm, certain things fade or evaporate away faster. But on clothing, even the next evening, like when I took the sweater off, I smelled it and I could still smell it pretty strongly.
So it's
The whole
okay to
scent.
spray it on your clothes? Because, I mean, you did say that some fragrances stain.
Some fragrances stain. This has a light orange tint to it, and this was a dark sweater, so it didn't really show up. I wouldn't necessarily spray most things on like a white shirt or a really light colored shirt like pink or something, because I would think the droplets are going to show. Most fragrances are either tinted a certain color or they are naturally that color because of the ingredients. In this case, I think this one is probably tinted.
Oh,
But it does fine on clothes that are dark and stuff that it'll wash out.
I see, I see. And what occasions would you use this for?
I think of this as a year-round scent, but it certainly has its place in nicer weather and stuff because it does smell earthy but fresh. So I like it as an office scent or as a going out to dinner scent or something. I don't know that it necessarily qualifies as like a sexy date scent or something like that. It's just not that kind of a lure to it. I wouldn't necessarily wear this as kind of like a sporting scent because I think that your body heat might make it a little too much.
Yeah, yeah, it can. I think it's more kind of casual.
Yeah, and a little classy, dressy type of a smell. I mean, you don't have to be in a super dressed up sort of a mode to wear it, but it just gives one that feel. So one thing that I would suggest for people who hear about and are interested in this scent is to know that there are several flankers of the Terre D'Hermes line. Terre D'Hermes Eau de Toilette is the original one, and it is probably the most versatile of all of them. There are some others that are wonderful, and if you like this one, you'll probably want to explore, but this is the one I would suggest you start out with. So remember that there are others that are Terre d'Hermes EDP or Eau de Parfum. And then there's a parfum version. There's an Eau de Toilette Eau Intense Vetiver, which is wonderful, but it's not quite the same as this. It's more intense on the vetiver than on the orange. And then there are a couple more fresh that leave out some of the earthy tones to it. All of them are wonderful, but they're different. And this is the original one, and this is the one that will really get you noticed.
And you know what I'm excited about?
What?
That in the future, we'll talk about those fragrances too. We'll
Right.
feature them here on our channel because we just love Terre.
Right.
We love this fragrance, and I hope that one day you guys get to enjoy this fragrance too because it really works.
Yeah. If there's any that I can recommend for most people, this is definitely one of them. As long as you like orange in general, this one is a wonderful one. It's hard not to like this one, and this one definitely gets you noticed in a good way.
Yes. And if you like what you see and heard, like and subscribe. If there's any fragrance you want us to talk about, just leave a comment. Okay, take care.
Bye.